On this episode of the Naturist Living Show, the Naturist Society.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show is brought to you by Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park. At Bare Oaks, we offer traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Free your body, free your mind. www.bareoaks.ca.
Welcome, dear listener, to episode 162 of the Naturist Living Show. My name is Stéphane Deschênes, and I'm the host for this podcast and the owner of Bare Oaks Family Naturist Park. And, of course, I work closely with Samantha, who does the job of keeping me organized and editing all this and keeping things moving. And she does this because of a lot of supporters. You support us by listening, but you, of course, many of you support by donating money every month to the show, which goes to Samantha. And Samantha, tell us a little bit about a few of them.
Thanks, Stefan, and hello, listeners. I want to thank all of you for keeping this podcast thriving. Your support means the world to me. This episode, I want to give a special shout out to Clark A., Mark C., Amanda R., Ed H., and Mel R. Your encouragement truly keeps us inspired. To all of our amazing Patreon supporters, we couldn't do this without you. And if you're not yet part of our Patreon family and want to help sustain our work, join us at patreon.com/naturistlivingshow, all one word. We appreciate each and every one of you. And now for this episode.
So this episode is about the Naturist Society, or the Naturist Society Foundation as they're currently known. And it's an interview that was done by Tim Chizmar, over a year ago, I think. And unfortunately, we've have a lot of material that we have been sitting on because we have to put it together and producing it and assembling it. And the order depends on some things that are more relevant or topical that we want to get out for a variety of reasons, even though material is generally evergreen, and meaning that it's good and relevant, even if listened to years into the future. But this is particularly relevant because the last episode, 161, we talked about AI, and we talked about AI, artificial intelligence, in the context that we turned with AI an article about Nicky Hoffman's retirement into a podcast using AI. So I thought this would be the right time to bring forth this interview that Tim Chizmar did a year ago. It's now fall of 2024, and I think he recorded it in the fall of 2023. So it was supposed to be about the Naturist Society, and Nicky talks about what she does, but because she's retiring, it's even more relevant. So I hope you enjoy this discussion that Tim had with Nicky.
Hey, it's me, it's him, it's Tim. Once again, a nudist reporter, a nudescaster, as it were, for CFI, clothesfree.com. But also, we are streaming this audio with the Naturist Living Show podcast. Of course, Stéphane Deschênes, who owns Bare Oaks out of Canada. So it's great that we're bringing all the media together between the webisodes, the audio on podcast, and print. We've got Nicky Hoffman here. She is the owner, the operator, the editor of the Naturist Society, and of course, N Magazine, which is it just strictly N, or does the N stand for something, Nicky?
Well, it used to be Nude Natural, and then we just called it N Magazine because it's easier to brand, just a letter.
That's what I thought, but I didn't want to say it and be wrong. I didn't want to say Nude Natural, and you're like, that's a magazine out of Australia. So, well, great. This is so fun to have you on here. And Stéphane had told me that he hadn't had you on the podcast. And of course, Corky, we've been trying to make this work for CFI for a long time. So such a joy. This is a lot of fun to finally be able to capture you in a bottle. let's start at the beginning. I've got questions, I've got topics, but in the very beginning, so I know that there was some friction when the Naturist Society got started versus ANR, because ANR had already existed. So my question is, were you involved in ANR and then felt like
No.
there needed to be a different somebody to facilitate the non-owned lands?
Well, Lee Baxandall founded the Naturist Society, and that was in 1980, and I came to work for him in 1983. And it's a cute story, by the way. But he felt that there should be more than naturists, and he always said behind walls.
Yeah.
And our country is surrounded by water. We should have places that we can go. And he liked he summered on Truro Beach and thought, what a great place. So he got together with a group in California, and they started. It was National Nude Day in the beginning. And then that was so popular, worked so well, and they did it simultaneously, East Coast, West Coast, that they moved into a weekend. And then when I came along, I'm like, come on, let's do it for a whole week and get the clubs involved. So we started doing it for a whole week, and kind of the rest is history. So we've been doing Nude Rec Week since 1981, well, the day and then weekend and week. So, yes. I know I was not an ANR member.
No. Okay. Well, what, and obviously these days it seems like it's interchangeable, that the ANR and TNS works well together, that the people are on both boards, both committees, directors, etc. So it seems to be very, very hand in hand. Has it just been a changing of the people, the society over time, or was there a moment where people really came together?
Well, Lee had, whoever was the executive director at ANR, and the one I remember the most was Arne Eriksson, and they always had meetings. They had the Tanner meetings, which was the trade association for nude recreation, and Lee, along with Glenn Stout, started those. So ANR people were there and TNS people were there, and we don't very often do events together because it's a little bit hard. We have different philosophy on what should be done and stuff. And our gatherings, we've always included all of our members. We never had secret meetings or anything. It was just like everybody comes together. We do workshops, we play, we dance, everything. And we're just thinking about doing a woman's retreat, which we've never done before. We're thinking about doing that, and that would be an ANR TNS combined event. And I think that's positive. I think that's real.
I bet you Linda Weber would be all over that.
Yep. It's going to be in Florida, and our board chair, Norma Mitchell, who used to be the owner. I was just going to tell you the name of the place in Union City. We had several gatherings there, but she's in Florida now, so she's going to be heading up our contingency, and then Joan Harris will do it for ANR. So it'll be fun.
What is your official title? Who are you for TNS?
I'm the executive director, and I'm also the magazine editor, the N magazine editor. So I wear two hats.
That's great. Now, I discovered your magazine, which, before I jump, has the magazine always existed as a part of TNS, or was there a time where they introduced that?
It started in 1981, and it started in 73, 74, 75, and 76. Lee did a tabloid, like a newspaper thing. And then in 81, he produced the first issue. It was called Clothed with the Sun. And we did Clothed with the Sun for probably 20 years, and then we changed it to Nude Natural, and then pretty soon it was just N, because it's hard to print an N with a Nude and Natural in it. It didn't look great, so we came off with N.
Well, so my background was I discovered nudism. I saw a little clip of, there was an episode of Unsolved Mysteries that had some criminal who was hiding at a nudist resort.
Yes.
So as a very young child, that was my first introduction to the concept of it. And I said to myself, that sounds great. That's something we could do. And of course, I was in Pennsylvania, and there was no nudists or nude resorts or nude events or around where I grew up. So it was, you might as well say, people live on Mars. So I heard about it and I was like, that just seems normal. Like that would be great. And it wasn't until I went to college and I was an art student and I had people who would pose nude for my art classes that I then signed up to pose nude because it was a bucket list thing and I wanted to experience this. And immediately I was comfortable and happy with it. And that's when I looked into the closest nude resort nearby, which was Whitethorn Lodge in Darlington, Pennsylvania. That was the first one I ever went to. But your magazine was available at the bookstore at the time. It was Borders Books. Yep. And so I would buy it there. I think they put a paper on the cover so that you couldn't see the nude body.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. But I had
the porno books were there, weren't they?
Yeah, the porn books were there. Yeah, and it was in the same section. Yeah. Which, anyway, so I want to ask you about this because it was urban legend, and I want to know the truth. I heard that the magazine stopped being distributed by Borders Books because you guys refused to not put naked people on the cover, and that was too much of an issue for them.
What?
That's what I heard.
No, we stopped selling to bookstores because they wanted us to do like they did. Remember how when they started putting Playboy in a opaque envelope so that you couldn't see what was on the cover?
Yeah.
And Lee was like, no, we're putting naked people on the cover. In fact, if you look back, I don't believe that we ever had a cover that didn't have naked people on it, ever.
Well, that's my question.
Yeah.
Did you ever consider not putting naked people on the cover just to make them happy for distribution?
No, because we didn't make money on those magazines.
Really?
Well, say we sent, I want to say Barnes & Nobles was our biggest seller, and we would send them like maybe 800 magazines.
Yeah.
And then they distributed them to their stores. And then whatever didn't sell, they threw away and didn't pay us.
What?
Yeah. Well, if they mailed them back to us, we couldn't sell them because they were damaged anyway. So they would throw them away, and we actually lost thousands of dollars selling to bookstores. And as much as I'd love to have it in bookstores again,
yeah,
I don't want to lose money on it.
No, that sounds ridiculous. We deal with a similar thing in film distribution. I work in publishing myself, books and comics and movies. With movies, if we do a deal with Walmart and we send all our units there, anything that doesn't get sold, they make us pay and buy them back.
Yeah. It's like, no. And they would send us mastheads, just the covers of the magazine. Yeah. They'd send it back to us. And then we'd owe them money. And it was like, no. So I finally convinced Lee that we shouldn't do that.
I understand.
And, you can't keep losing money and stay in business. So
no, that's not how business works. I have to hit you with this because everybody wants to hear the coming out story. Christians and nudists together love to hear how you got converted. So did you grow up in a nudist family? When did you discover nudism?
No, I know that my dad had old nudist magazines in the bedroom because I went in there one day and I saw them and it was like, oh, this looks pretty cool. I actually grew up in the Midwest, and in the Midwest, nobody takes their clothes off. It's really terrible. But I married a man and we lived on a farm. And like I got home from work and I took off my clothes. It's like, I don't want to wear clothes if I don't have to. So back in 1982, I had 2 girlfriends who worked for Lee, and he was taking them on a Windjammer cruise. And they had what is called the bachelorette quarters. And they had a bed extra. And they offered me to go on this nude cruise. And sure, I'll go on this nude cruise. And they were friends, and none of them were naturists at all. So I was with them most of the time. And the one regret that I have is that I didn't get nude on that cruise. I got nude in the water, but that was it. But the last night on board the ship, Lee sat down and talked to me, and he said, would you ever consider working for the Naturist Society? And I thought he was kidding. And I said, yeah. And that was in November of 1982, and I started working on April Fool's Day in 1983. Wow. So, yeah, I came back, and he called up and he said, I got a job open. Are you ready to come and talk to me? And I said, sure. So I started out answering letters for Lee. The day after I started, he went to Truro for 3 months, and I had to handle all the correspondence. I had to mail him proofs from the magazine and back and forth. And he came back, and I've done everything in the office, from answering letters to mailing out merchandise to editing the magazine. So I've done it all.
Wow.
And I love it.
How many members are on the staff these days?
We're way down in numbers right now. We actually have 3 full-time and 1 part-time, but we had a change in postage has gone up just exponentially in paper and everything. So we actually found a company that'll mail the magazine, the bulk ones, when we do the big mailing. So we don't have to do that in-house anymore. So I have a layout person. I have Carmen does advertising and media, and we have somebody that enters orders, and me. So I still do a lot of everything.
This reminds me of something I was going to ask you about, because the world has, and I'm shocked. I never would have guessed that it would go this way, but it seems like things are getting more and more conservative, like more and more, like people are afraid, especially when it comes to nudity. And so the fact that there are families in the magazine, is that becoming an issue with mailing across state lines, that sort of, like, for example, is this considered porn in Utah?
Now, the only place we have trouble is in the Southeast, South Carolina, Georgia, Alabama. We have trouble with that. And they open our magazines from time to time. I don't know what they're going to do now, because we just went to a plastic bag for mailing because paper's so hard to come by. We couldn't get our envelopes. So the company that is mailing for us said, well, we can do these opaque. I said, as long as they can't see nudity through it, I don't care. So I don't know how that's going to work, because from time to time, the post office opens our mail to inspect it. And I don't know how they can open plastic bags and seal them back up. So it's going to be a learning experience.
I get so angry that people loop in nudity with sexuality, and it doesn't matter how much we say about it. They in their heads, if you're naked, you're only showering or having sex, and so it must be sexual, or they turn it into some kind of kink or fetish. And that's Stefan Duchesne on the Naturist Living Show podcast talks about this at length with people, about how you could fetishize anything. You know what I mean? You could turn anything into some kind of creepy turn on. So the fact that these people are non-sexual and being alive, I always say, if God wanted us to be naked, we would have been born that way.
Yeah, exactly. And I have come across it. Nothing much has changed in the 40 years that I've worked there. It's so disappointing. In that, if I do interviews over Nude Recreation Week, they ask the same stupid questions, and I answer the same way. I used to have a really good guy from Missouri, and he always called up and he asked great questions, and would come back at, if somebody would call in, he'd say, Nicky, I don't know if you're going to want to take this. And I'm like, no, I'll take it. It's okay.
Yeah.
We have to answer them honestly. And do we have fun? Yeah. Do husbands and wives still find each other attractive when they're naked together? Yeah, it's context. It's totally different. Being at a nude beach is not a romantic place to be, unless it's in the evening and you have all your clothes on and you're drinking wine. It's like, that's not what it's about. It's about.
And the other thing, it is literally demonizing of other. They don't know what they're talking about. Somebody who tells me that nudists are all perverts and weirdos and all this, they literally don't know any nudists. They don't know what they're talking about. They say that it's some perverted land. And then all I say is, have you ever been to a nude resort? Have you ever been to a nude beach? Have you ever been to a social nude gathering? No. Well, then you don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, Tim, they probably do know somebody that's a nudist, but they won't tell them.
That is very true. I am actively involved in some political things here in Nevada, and I am open that I'm a nudist. I always say nudists shouldn't be in the closet. That's where clothes is. So I'm pretty open about being a nudist. And when I go to these events, I look around. Guess what? There's probably 5 people that I've seen at nude events, but they don't say anything, and I'm not going to blow their cover. But I'm not the only nudist in the room, but I'm the only nudist who says I'm a nudist.
Yes. And it was, when I first started working at the Naturist Society, my children were maybe third grade, fourth grade, fifth grade. So they had them in graduate age. And they were always like, Mom, don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
So when my kids got into high school, I'm doing for parent teacher conferences. One of the teachers is a member.
Yeah.
I have all in that, and he's like, so where do you work, Nikki? And I said, well, I work at the Naturist Society. I'm the editor of N Magazine. And he went, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there are people, like sitting in an airplane. I love it because I'm sitting next to a conservative woman and I pull out N Magazine and I start reading it. And pretty soon I get some questions. And
Sure.
Sometimes it goes well. Sometimes it doesn't go well. But I don't care. I can't get fired from my job for admitting I'm a naturist. So
I am uncancelable. I always say, who's my boss? I've been working for myself since 2005. I have my own, I books and movies and I do my own stuff. You can't cancel me. I do what I want.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I have got friends all across the country. I could call them up at any minute and go and stay with them. And it's family. It's just your extended family. And the minute you say, if you're at an event and the minute you say, hi, you have a friend, it's for life.
Yeah.
I love it.
No, it's great. Nudists see more of their friends is always the bumper sticker. My friends who were naked together and we do events together, there's such a bonding, such a acceptance of who you are without any extra added, what are you supposed to be? What are you embarrassed of? What are you afraid of? That you're going to see some body parts that you don't normally see all the time, but they're still real and natural. And it's you without any artificial additives,
I had a friend many years ago who said, I can't believe that you get paid to take your clothes off. And we're not friends anymore. Yeah. It's like, that doesn't have anything to do with I love what I do. I believe in naturism. I have daughters that my younger daughter is a little bit bigger than my younger daughter than my older daughter. Yeah. And I had to teach them about accepting your own body. And that's been a lot of fun. So everybody should try it.
I have a lot of friends that are actresses and models, and they always say that their fear is that, and they've said this to me directly, when people see me naked, they don't react the way they do when they see you naked. In other words, like when they go someplace, they're attractive and pretty. And so all these men are going to gather around and make them uncomfortable. And, I never quite know what to say to that because I want to be all rose-colored glasses and happy, shiny sun. But that's one of the little annoyances I have about nudism in general, is it seems like people always focus on how happy and nice it can be, but sometimes it's not so. I can't say that if I go alone to Black's Beach in San Diego, I'm going to get the same reaction as if I show up with two of my model girlfriends. There's going to be an entirely different environment.
Okay, but it would be like that if you had your clothes on too.
Yeah.
It's like I think naturism is the great equalizer, and you can tell when you're with people who believe the way you do too.
Sure.
It doesn't make any difference to me. I've been at gatherings where if it's cold, you put something on. If it's warm, you take it off. And sitting in a circle, dancing, swimming, whatever, it doesn't make any difference. And you're all the same.
Well, this is why I would love to talk about something that I've noticed, and it's been a topic of conversation amongst some of my nudist buddies, Corky and Stefan and people who run nude bed and breakfasts and resorts. It seems like, and we just got the news recently about another closure of a resort. It seems like, and I can list, a couple that I wrote down just real quickly before we hopped on here: Elysium, McConville, Swallows, and now De Anza Springs. Does it seem like there's not enough support from nudists? Are they not interested in patronizing and in camping anymore? Because while at the same time it seems like we're losing resorts, the events that are socially nude seem to be on a high. The World Naked Bike Ride is a big deal. Hundreds of people come out to experience that. I participated in Beta Breakers this year, and there were hundreds of nudists there. So what do you think this says about the climate right now?
Well, I think we're trying to compare apples and oranges, and I think I understand what you're saying, and I don't. I think that as far as naturist members going, everybody always says, "Oh, the graying of naturism." When I first started going to events, everybody had gray hair except for me. So younger people aren't joining, but they don't join anything. It doesn't make any difference about naturism. And I know, Morley will say, "Oh, I've got all kinds of young people," but they don't join the national organization. I give away free memberships to people that go to Morley's event. We give away 3 every day, and they join, and I send them one magazine, and then they move, and they don't let us know that they've moved. So we send another magazine, and we have to pay to get it back. They never renew. We have never had one young person who got that free membership that renewed. I think they can go to a beach because maybe they're more anonymous at a beach. And if you go to a club, you're going to see the same people all the time. And some clubs are different. Some are, I'm sure that Stefan has a whole different group of people that come than some of the other ones. Now, Deanza, Mark and Kathy just were at Deanza. They loved it. But the people who bought Deanza bought it to make money. And I don't think they were making the money that they thought they were going to. Right. Which is too bad, because Mark and Kathy just had a blast. In fact, he wrote an article that now I have to pull from the next issue because I'm not going to promote them if they're going textile.
Right.
It's not what I'm here for. So I don't know. I think take Laguna del Sol. Wayne and Suzanne are doing a great business there, and at Mira Vista, they're both going really strong. So I think it's area wise. And again, the group of people that come, people are just aging out. That's my. I'd like to. I never wanted to focus on the 18 to 20-year-olds. I was always more interested in like the 35 to 45s.
Okay.
Because then they're bringing their families, which is what you want.
Sure.
But it's hard, they're in that. They're buying their house and. Do they really want to go to a naturist place every weekend? They're different people, but as long as I've worked there, it's been cyclical. We've had years where we run along really smoothly, and then you dip down, and then you go back up. And COVID, we really took a hit.
Well, that's, one of my things that I'm grr about. There is a nudist resort club here in Las Vegas that is a swingers compound. And they are members of ANR, and they are advertised in your magazine. And I've told people about them, and I've had text messages from them. I've had emails from them. I've showed Eric Shutoff, and I've given proof. But the explanation I got was, and I'm not going to mention anybody's names, but I was told that because of COVID and because of the nature of the way things are, we've lost so many clubs and we've lost so many groups that we want to hold on to the ones that we can. So people are willing to look the other way if Tuesday night is swinger night, which I have a lot of issue with that, because I am a card carrying real nudist, that I practice what I preach. And I feel like if somebody belongs to a nudist organization that says they're about non-sexual nudity, and they look up where are the places that are following this principle, and then they show up and they get the kind of reaction I got, which was my introduction to this guy. I said, I'm interested in coming. And he said, great, find a cute girl and come join us. So it was gross on 2 levels. On one, it was homophobic, because he was assuming my couple would be a girl. What if I was 2 dudes and we were both nudists? And then the other thing was, of course, the swinging on certain days.
Send me an email after this and tell me that place, because they'll be removed. I've never had a complaint, so let me know.
Before I did my lifetime membership, they're the people I was talking to you about. Because I said I would love to get into some of the more controversial stuff in nudism, because there are things that I see that irks me. I get annoyed with this kind of stuff.
Well, that's interesting because I love Mark to death.
Yeah,
but he wouldn't know a swinger if it bit him in the butt.
Okay.
So if he goes someplace and I'll say, just check this place out. Oh yeah, it was great. And I'm like, no, it's not. So yeah, that would be helpful.
That'd be great. Well, I looked at buying a former land. Do you remember Desert Sun Rancheros? That was out here in Nevada.
No.
So it was a nudist resort around the 70s, and it lasted for like 30 years, something like that. But it's been vacant for the last 20 or so. And I visited, I sent video to Clothes Free, and I was in negotiations about buying it. They have, RV hookups and cabins and a big pool and all this kind of stuff. And I'm contemplating getting into the bit, because one of the reasons is I feel like we need a good nudist resort in Las Vegas, because living here, everything's sex related. It's very strippers and porn and the porn awards and all this. I'd like to bring back. We couldn't even do the World Naked Bike Ride. People couldn't. Where did they have it out of? The Erotic Heritage Museum. It's like just cut our legs out from under us, So I'd love to be a force for that.
I think the thing too with like World Naked Bike Ride, I think a lot of people, it's the one day out of the year that they go and get naked. Yeah. And they don't have to join anything. They don't have to give their name,
Sure. If it's so fun, why not do more of it? And I know I'm as I say it, I know like, for example, San Francisco, they do 4 World Naked Bike Rides a year, but they probably dilute it down and they probably have less of a turnout. But if something's fun and exciting, I was telling Rolf Hallbach, I was like, why don't we have a World Naked Bike Ride every Saturday?
I think Cynthia probably would have to hit you for that, because they're a lot of work for
I know, that's true. You're right.
But I agree with you. I think it goes well, and
the media hops on. Like Mark created a World Naked Gardening Day, and it's all over the news. They want to talk about it. It's so unique and special. And as a naked comedian who made a naked movie, like I get a lot of interviews and stuff like that, because people are fascinated that it even exists, that it's a thing.
Yeah, I get that a lot too. It's like, oh, we didn't even know you were around. And I'm like, well, obviously you didn't do much research then, because we've been around for a long time. It's been a pleasure. I have wonderful girls that I work with in the office, and we get to meet wonderful people, and we get to be naked doing it. So
we were mentioning about the young nudists. Some thoughts I had about that. I feel like young people don't want a label. They don't want to be called a nudist. So they'll, in my interactions, like Vita Nuda through Anna, etc., I've worked with young nudist groups, and it seems like they're more likely to say things like, oh, me and my friends, I'm not a nudist, but me and my friends will hike to a nude hot springs. And I'm thinking, well, that's a nude activity. You're living it, you're doing it, but they just don't want to loop themselves in with those people,
Well, it's kind of hard too. Years ago, we had like 6 college groups that were young naturists. One was in Pennsylvania, as a matter of fact. And I worked really, really hard. And they don't start when they're freshmen, because they're too afraid to tell anybody that they want to get naked. So we've got them for sophomore and junior year, and then the middle half of their second year or senior year, they're off looking for a job and what their next gig is going to be. And they never took care to get somebody in the wings to take over. So I'd work really hard for 3 or 4 years, and then, they disbanded, and of course never let me know. But we had several groups. We helped Robbie get started down in Florida, and he's the one that does the Florida Young Naturist events.
Yeah. I was wondering how, because I know nothing about the turnouts or anything on their Instagram. It's just one dude like grilling. So I'm always wondering, is it successful? Are people coming out?
Yeah, Morley has 4 at his at Southport Gardens. He has 4 or 5 a year, and there's always 60, 70 people, which is fine for a small event. And then now Robbie takes his group up. They go up to Sunny Sands and they go to Lake Como. But you have to have a club that, the kids want to have a bonfire and they want to dance and they want to play loud music.
That's what I say. When I do nude talent shows or comedy, I always make sure that I mention this because it's hack at this point. Resorts say they want to attract young people. That's what they say. But then they don't understand that young people are not going to act the way you act. So if you're not willing to put up with cannonballs in the pool and loud music, and you tell them, we want to get young people. I don't know why people don't show up when we have chili cook-off and bingo night.
Yeah. And Morley met with his members and he said, listen, we have the opportunity to have these kids and you're all welcome to join in, but know that they're going to play music all night. They're going to have the bonfire. They're going to be dancing.
Yes.
And they're going to be making noise. And they do the bonfires off, not like his people live on the other side of the resort, but it's not all that big. So they hear them, and they've learned that if they want to be there for the other 51 weeks out of the year, that you're going to have to put up with it. And the kids come back, the same group of kids come back and they bring their friends. And then they come back because he has like a bonfire, a dance around the bonfire every Friday night, and the kids don't have to pay. They can come in for free that night. So that's pretty awesome.
I remember at Olive Del Ranch, there was a school bus that would pick up the kids, that would stop off at the nudist resort to pick up the kids to go on to school. And I always thought that was so outrageous. Imagine the other kids on the bus, there's no guess about, well, I guess you're from a nudist family,
Yes. Yeah. We just did in, I think in this issue, we did a review on a book written by a girl that was raised at a resort in Florida. And it's quite a good book. You should read it. We did it for our book club. Ask Cynthia about it.
Well, I don't have to ask Cynthia. I'm a lifetime member. I have the magazine.
Then read it. But
I will.
We had the girl on. She went. She came on the book club. We did a Zoom, and the woman. She's now 61 years old, and she came on. So it was pretty awesome.
Have you read any of D.H. Jonathan's books? His nudist?
No.
Well, he even featured Corky and I in the last chapter of his most recent book.
Really?
Yeah, we're in there as characters. His lead girl runs into us at the World when we're filming. So
wonderful.
But he's great. If you ever wanted to do one of his books, or he'd even talk to you or something, he's a solid dude. But growing up, having read your magazines and taking pictures out and hanging them in my dorm and whatnot, it means so much. Like I'd been mentioned in little articles here and there, smaller things. David Cole wrote an article about my comedy back in the day and stuff. But next to me right here, I just want to mention, like, being featured, the Jubilee video was freaking awesome. This was so cool to have multiple pages of this about, and they brought us back a year later. So we did another. So the fact that it's being represented in what I consider to be like the nudist Bible was really great. And my movie being featured in this other magazine.
You bet.
Such an amazing write-up. And just the fact that Mark's story got where I was coming from and what I was doing, because I know he had some hesitation going into the interview about, this movie and what he's doing and is this really, and he got it. He got the passion and the interest and the, I'm not saying it's the world's greatest movie. I'm saying it's the best nude comedy that's been made so far because it's real. It's a real nudist comedy.
Well, that thing that you did where you were all standing. There were a bunch of you standing.
Yes.
That was my favorite thing that you've ever done. I thought it was the best.
Did you see the follow-up a year later? The one where me and Juliana took. I'll have to send you the link. It also has almost 1 million views. Juliana and I. So originally, so we did the one where we stood on the lines, and that was great. And Jubilee Spectrum has a big following, and so they were able to really get it out there to the masses. And there are even reaction videos where people talk about our video in their videos. It impacted them so much. But a year later, they came back and asked me to come on as a guest, and I would answer questions from textiles about the nudist environment. And I said I wouldn't do it by myself because I knew they would ask me questions about periods and, toplessness and all this. And I didn't want to be answering on behalf of women. So I made sure that they brought Juliana in, and it was me and Juliana, the two leads of my nudist movie, The Noodles and Noodland. And together we answered all these questions. And so they spent a day with people, just regular people coming in, asking anything off the top of their heads. And a lot of it was repetitious. It was the same stuff. But that video has almost as many views as the Standing on the Line one. So I'll have to send that to you. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just wonderful. I find I have one of the women in my office is not a naturist. So when she gets a call that she can't handle, Nicky gets it. And we don't get many anymore. We used to back, when I first started, we had one guy that would call up, and I had a young girl working for me. She was like 18. And he called her and told her that he was in a bubble bath and what he was doing. And she was and she stayed with us for many years. And she finally, I told her, I said, have a whistle by the phone. Give him a whistle when he pulls crap like that, because they're not real naturists. And we do very, very rarely anymore do we get a call that I would consider a bad call. Most everybody is interested and curious and has some knowledge about naturism. I appreciate that,
Yes. And it's about education. It's about the more people that know it, understand it, are on the same page, then less of that stuff is going to be involved. At this most recent World Naked Bike Ride in Los Angeles, when I went down there covering it for CFI, I brought Sammy with me, who's a nudescaster, new to all this stuff. And there was an Asian fat dude who kind of looked like Uncle Fester, who came over and asked if he could take a picture. And she was being polite, and she's like, sure, yes. And then he started zooming in, obviously, on her crotch and her nipples, and just being a real sleazebag. And the cops came over and got him because apparently in the past he had started to pleasure himself at events. So they knew who he was. And it was that gross. And so the cops got rid of him. But, that was one of her first introductions. So here I am saying how, we're such a, yeah. So it's frustrating sometimes.
Yeah. I've had so much fun because some of the people that started in naturism when I started working there had small children, and now their children are grown. Yeah. And it's so cool to see how the kids have grown. And they all go through a period where they don't want to come to naturist events.
Yep.
But not so much the naturist event as they don't want to go anywhere with mom and dad.
I heard this at the very first resort I ever went to, Whitethorn Lodge. I had all these questions, and they were telling me that there's a gap when you have a family, when you have these kids going to the resort around the time they hit puberty. They either are they're all in or all out, and if they're all out, sometimes they come back to it as adults later. But if they're all out, that's where they turn out, because you're dealing with enough through puberty anyway that it's can be much.
Yeah, I always wondered about it, and then I kind of decided that it's like when I was 14 to 16, I don't want to go where my parents went. I wanted to be with my friends. So that's part of it too. It's fun. It's sure fun.
Well, I'll tell you, just because I like bringing up this kind of, because I just, everybody else is so just like I said, happy sunshine. I'm going to be the guy who brings up stuff that gets in my craw. That resort that I went to back in the day, they had a rule against male genital piercings, but women could have them. And their explanation was that they felt it drew too much attention to the men. And at the time, I just want to get along with everybody. So I'm going, oh, okay, that makes sense. Later, I'm talking to a girl by the pool who has her belly button pierced with a chain hanging down to her vagina. And I remember looking at her thinking, how is this not the same kind of...
Well, I had a question about that because I want to know who checks that. Because some of the piercings are hidden quite well.
Sure.
How do they know if they have one or not?
You go through a metal detector.
I guess. I'm like, oh my gosh. And through the years, I had to thank Lee, because in the Midwest, I never experienced gay people.
Okay.
And 20 years ago now, my cousin came out as gay.
Mm-hmm.
And my mom called me and she said, "Did you hear about your cousin?" And I said, "No, I thought he was in an accident." And she said, "He's gay." And I went, "Yeah, I know." And I just knew the minute she said it, I knew. And I was so thankful because he and I are like brother and sister.
Sure.
And some people, that's a deal breaker for them. And I don't understand that.
Yeah.
Same with being a naturist.
Well,
You know?
I'm so glad you brought that up because I'm surrounded by notes here. I've got all these topics to talk about, and one of them, I'm really eager to hear your opinion on this because I've brought this up to different nudist folks. I wonder, I'm just posing this because I've never heard anybody else talk about this. Should being a nudist be involved in the LGBTQ flag? Should being a nudist be another, because it's not all about sexual attraction. There's also trans and asexual and all these other. Would we get more recognition and attention being included in the flag? Because when I mention this, some people can see that, and then some people say that we wouldn't want to be associated with. Well, so what do you think?
Oh boy, that's a tough one for me because we've always had, Lee helped Murray Hoffman start the gay nudist, the male group.
Yeah.
And they've always been included in all of our events. They have always been able to be members like a couple, always with the Naturist Society. We've always accepted them as couples. I don't know if being part of the flag, maybe they would feel that we were trying to usurp something from them, and I wouldn't ever want that to happen. I guess I wouldn't mind. I don't see that there's any reason, although because we suffer the same stigma that they do.
Yes.
So I don't know. I think that maybe, through the years we've only had maybe 3 lesbian couples that came, and finally I got up my courage and I talked to one of them and said, "Why don't you come to our events anymore?" And they said, "Because we don't like to be around men." And the gay guys don't seem to care, The young woman that I worked with at the Naturist Society all those years, for 30 years at the dances, we were always with the gay guys because they were more fun, and we didn't have to worry about them. They danced with us and they left us alone. So it was great. And but I don't know. I wouldn't want to hurt their feelings and come across as, "Oh, we're like you," because we're not.
Well, because they seem to be including all these other things into the flag. It keeps changing all the time.
Yeah.
Like we added brown and black people, tying into. Well, I mean that's a racial divergent versus a sexuality or an identity. So I just wonder if it would help us in any way. I would just because we are definitely stigmatized against. I mean, I can't walk into the grocery store naked. I'm a pervert. I'm a creep. Yeah. Whereas I'm just being myself. I'm not hurting anyone. I'm not doing anything. I'm not doing anything lewd or trying to. Bear to Breakers really did it for me. I thank you for allowing me to participate in that article that's going to be coming out soon. My story of going to Bear to Breakers was that it was the first time I participated in this event where everyone can walk through the city naked, and it's totally accepted, it's totally legal. But I ran in to a rogue ranger who took it upon himself, even though the city says it's okay and it's celebrated with posters and signs. He felt that it wasn't right to have these naked people. And I happened to be with a group of like 8 naked people, including what's her name? She's very active in the movement. Cynthia?
Claudia
was with us, and a bunch of other nudists from Lupin Lodge and from local events, and some people drove up from LA. But he made us put our clothes on for a brief moment. Then as soon as we went past him, most of us got naked again. But the interaction with me and this cop, where I knew that we were allowed, we're not allowed to be naked in most places, and here we are, we're allowed to be naked, but he's going rogue and he's going to cite us or arrest us, and so we have to throw our clothes on. That did not stand with me, and I did a lot of I let everybody know about it, and I made sure I called the next day to the ranger station, and it turned out that guy ended up on the phone with me, and he apologized, and he said that he had misinformation, and that 2 hours into telling people they had to put their clothes on, he got noticed that there are these events that are clothing optional and blah, blah, blah. But when I got off the phone and I knew I had made a dent and that he knew I wasn't going to go away, and then I talked to him and got an apology and an assurance that he was never going to do that again. When I got off the phone, I was hit in the feels in a way that I had never done by going to these events where I'm not actively trying to engage in the outside world. And I remember when I got off the phone, one of the people in the car said, "Now you've discovered the joy of being an activist." And I was like, it felt good.
I think
I think we should do more of that, is what I'm saying. I feel like we should push it more, and it's going to be tough in the beginning, but so was it for gay rights and Harvey Milk, and it's going to be a little rough. But then also you change the culture when more people, instead of those people, were your neighbor, were your brother, were your friend.
Well, I always tell people that your golf league that you belong to, there's naturists in there. Your bowling league, the library, you walk in the library and there's going to be a naturist in there, whether you know it or not. And I've had some wonderful education moments. I went back to college when I was working for Lee. I'd never gone to college, and I went when I was 40 years old, and I had a shirt on in one of the classes. I always wear my nature shirts because I loved it, but I had one that says, "Ask me about naturism." So I'm sitting in the front of the class, because when you go back to college, when you're an adult, you don't sit in the back, you sit right up front. And you had to call on people. And this guy in the back says, "I want to talk to that lady up there that tell me about naturism." So I got up and I did. And the professor asked me to come back and speak to his college age students about naturism. And it was wonderful. I absolutely loved it. Good questions, because I was all prepared for them not to ask me any questions. So I had written out questions and answers.
Sure.
And so I asked them, "Do you have any questions?" And they all look, like kids do in a classroom. And I said, "I'll bet you want to know." And I would read off a question, and you see them just leaning in closer, like, what's she going to say next? And of course I had magazines sitting there, and I let them take the magazines. So I probably didn't get any members, but when they're 35 and 40 and they have to vote for people, or they are talking about naturism, they'll have a little bit of knowledge about it. And that's my goal always, is give them a little bit of good information.
Absolutely, because we are the only nudists that they may ever see. So instead of hearing about those people, it's, "Oh no, she made sense and she was a decent, normal person. She, this is just what they're into." Let me tell you a quick story, because this one really did a number on me. So I told you I've gotten more active in politics in Nevada, and a lot of the people can be stuffy and uptight. And so I was doing some business with comic books and writing with somebody who was connected to those stuffy, uptight folks. And somebody told her not to do business with me because he's a pervert. And so she asked a former cop, a former police officer who ran for county commissioner, and the guy has a big cop mustache, and he's a tough guy, all this. And so she asked him about, his friend Tim, the pervert. And he said, and this was the quote, he said, "He's not a pervert, he's a nudist. There's a difference." And it was just like, I got through to him. He got it without me being there, because you never know what people are saying when you're not around. But without me being there, he defended me, and he said that there was a difference.
Yes. And that's whether you hand somebody a magazine to look at, or you answer their question honestly, or you use the right terms. Yes, she has breasts. He has a penis, using the right terms. My kids always use the right terms.
Right, not pee-wee, pee-pee, and winky, and all this. And that's one of the things people say is like, "Well, if nudity was allowed, how would I explain that to my..." by nature, by what do you say with a naked horse, you know?
Well, kids are naturally nudists.
Of course.
They don't want to wear clothes. They
Yes.
run around naked and people laughing. I remember at one of the very first gatherings I went to, we were having a woman's workshop and we were all sitting around and one of the women had a little boy.
Yeah.
And he was maybe 3 and he was just having a ball playing with his penis. And she kept taking her hand and like brushing him away. And finally I had to look at her and I said, Diane, really? Just leave him alone. We all know that he's enthralled with it. He's never going to grow out of that. So just let it be. And nobody paid any attention. And he stopped because nobody was paying attention to him. So it's the same thing with naturists, So we're not asking them to allow us to go naked on a beach with everybody else. No, we'd rather be at a nude beach with our own kind, So why can't we have those little places?
Yeah, I mean, who are we hurting? And it's funny having you and I talk about it because we're preaching to the choir. We both get exactly. Some of the things people say to me are I never even think of, like the erection question, where it's always like, "Oh, aren't you always walking around with an erection?" Really, with families and elderly people and kids? No, that's not. That doesn't even. No, it's not even.
No, but you know what? You brought up a subject dear to my heart because I hadn't been at the Naturist Society for very long, and I got a call from a man who wanted to go. He wondered if it was better to go to a nude beach or a resort. And I said, if you've never been before, a beach is probably better. And he said, okay. He said, do I have to strip off when I'm going to it? And I said, no, you can just go and, when you're comfortable, you'll take your clothes off. And he goes, well, what if I, and I said, get an erection. And there was complete silence on the phone because I brought it up. And I said, that's why naturists carry a towel to sit on.
Sure.
But it's also very handy for a man if he gets a little excited or whatever, cross your arms, whatever the case may be. And I said, go in the water. And I said, if that doesn't work, there's always a woman there with a stick. And he just lost it then. He just, and you have to put a little humor in it with him.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I'm certain it's, we're all fun-loving people and human.
I love being naked in nature. I love hiking trails. I love the wilderness. It always just came natural for me. I remember doing naked yoga poses at a retreat years ago when I was in college, and it just seems like, clothes is the unnatural thing there. We're bringing something in. It's leaves and trees and animals, and it just feels right to be naked in it.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I love the articles that Mark and Kathy do when they go hiking, and he's talking about the cactus or the flowers that are blooming in the desert or whatever. And I'm just like, yeah, get it? Why would you want sweaty clothes on? And then you get to a hot spring, hop in, it's normal.
Why have the clothes hang on you wet when you get out of the pool? It's so much easier to dry off altogether.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a place I would like to visit all 48 of the United States and visit nude events and nude areas. I saw such beautiful pictures from Vermont. Before I die, I want to visit some of these waterfalls, and just Vermont looks beautiful for nudism.
Yes, it is. I was up there right before COVID. I got to Vermont. It was beautiful. I don't know. I find something to love in every state I go in.
That's great.
There's something, I always loved Desert Shadows in Palm Springs. Was one of my favorite places to go. And then I go to Sunsport Gardens, which is the total opposite end of the spectrum, So there's something for everybody at every different place that you go to.
I'd love to focus areas that don't seem to get a lot of attention. It seems like Florida, California, they get a lot of attention, but I don't know what naked happens in Oklahoma. I'd like to get out to some of these places nobody ever talks about.
Oh, there's a nice place in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. We're trying. I tried to convince Mark and Kathy to come to Oshkosh, and then we would drive down to Oak Lake Trails and see if we could have a gathering there. And I almost had them convinced, but they're not here yet. He's got to do it before school starts.
Did you watch the Alison Brie movie that she did? Somebody I used to know. Have you seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet, but I read about it and I really want to see it because Dave Franco was in that, right? Or Dave, no, the other Franco.
Right.
They married?
Yes, they are. And she openly says she's a nudist. She talks about stories about being nude at Cal Arts, and part of the movie involves her being a nudist. So it's worth seeing. The end of it was filmed at a nudist club, at a nudist
Oh,
club.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I know. I saw it, and then it's off my radar. Life happens.
I understand.
I work too many hours.
I totally understand. Well, I have a couple of notes. I'm going to hit on these, so I make sure I get these all in. What do you feel is better? And I know there's pros and cons of both, but should events be clothing optional, or should they be nude mandatory? What do you feel?
Well, I differ with Stefan on this.
Okay.
Because I feel if I had gone to a resort and they told me I had to take my clothes off, I wouldn't have been comfortable. And that's why I chose to go to a beach first. Mm-hmm. And the thing is that I found at our events, like we had an older gentleman that had been coming to our events for years and years and years. And he brought his elderly wife, and she wasn't a naturist. And we went to one resort and had a gathering, and the owner made them leave. So he had to leave with her because she wasn't going to get naked. So she came the next year to a larger event at a different place. And she came up to me and she said, "Nicky, can I stay here?" And I said, "Of course you can." And then she wanted to know if she could come to the women's workshop. And I said, "Of course you can." And did she ever take her clothes off? No, she didn't. But she knew that her husband loved to be naked. So she came with him. And if we would have told her that she couldn't be there with him, then he wouldn't have come, and we would have missed out on that too. So I think, every situation is different. Sure. And I understand, if I owned a resort, but I found even at Morley's, there are people running around in all different stages of dress and undress. And I find like if I'm running back and forth and doing things and I have my t-shirt on, I leave it on. If I get to a place where I can sit down and rest, it comes off. It's just different. And I feel women don't get enough choices in their life as it is. This should be one that they can make. That's coming from a woman. Yeah.
No, there's no ultimate right or wrong. It's definitely a thing that goes back and forth. And for example, doing my nude stand-up comedy shows, the reason I made it mandatory inside was I didn't want anyone to be the butt of the joke. My fear was that if you didn't have to get naked, some people would show up to look at the naked people.
Right, and I get that.
Yeah.
But at our events, they're all coming because they're naturists. So
yeah.
And if they're playing volleyball, they're naked. If they're swimming, they're naked.
And I get it. I get that's why it's a fun thing to bring up. I certainly went through the situations of dating a woman who is not a nudist, but she says she's okay with me going to these events. And then, over time, it would be nice to bring her. It would be nice for her to be at these places and events and see what it's like, even if she's never going to get naked herself. So I'll tell you another interesting thing that we never think about, but there must be like some sort of culture and fear of cheating on spouses when it comes to clubs that have a lot of money in them. And so I took a girl I was dating who was separated from her husband in the divorce proceedings, but she wasn't officially divorced. I tried to take her to Glen Eden, and they wouldn't let her in because she was still married to some other man.
I see those kinds of things. I don't agree with. I don't agree with.
She thought that was incredibly nosy.
Yeah, I don't agree with men not being able to go to places. When I was younger, I had more trouble with married men than single men.
Yeah.
So, but it's back in the day around here, men would take their families to a naturist place on the weekend. Then they'd go back to work and leave the wife and kids. And they didn't want single men there because their wives were alone. And it's like, okay, that was 50 years ago. Get over it. I don't understand that whole culture either.
Sure.
Let's have 12 single women come because they let them in for free.
Sure.
But 5 guys can't come? No, I don't agree with that.
And that's something, if Corky Stanton was on this call, he would rant and rave, because as a young kid, he was going to resorts and he was angry when they wouldn't let him go in when he was, early college age, just learning about this. Like, why can't I? So,
and then they wonder why we don't have any young people. If you let young men in, they're going to bring young women because they want them there. I mean, why would guys want to go and hang out with 12 married couples? They want to have a young woman, so they're going to bring her themselves. And I always tell guys that too. They'll say, "Why don't you bring more young women to these events?" And I said, "Why don't you?"
Yes. I have no problem getting women to be newscasters for Clothes Free, or to go to events, or be in my movies. People outside the bubble are always like, "Oh, what'd you have to say to convince them to?" Nothing. A lot of them are like, "Yay, I get to be naked. It's fun."
Exactly. I think that there's a bunch of misconceptions that we just have to keep whittling away at it, and hopefully we'll keep getting people in that believe like we do, and eventually we'll get there. I don't know.
I hope so. Corky's doing a lot of work with the BLM territory. What's it called? The Magic Circle. He's done a lot of active stuff there, and he's been working on it really hard. There used to be signs up that said the Naturist Society on them, and he's getting those brought back. Some people brought that stuff down because this is so dumb, but the people who were there felt like they needed to keep it a secret and not let the people know it exists. And Corky and I are the exact opposite. We're like, tell them so they don't accidentally walk into the naked area. Let them know that this is where it is. Yeah.
Well, it's just like having the clothing optional things at the beaches, beyond this point kind of thing. Let them know. Then it's their choice. And if they come and they want to join in, okay. And if they don't, that's okay too. There's not... I've been to Black's Beach and saw all the little looky-loos up above. And it's like, so we're this big. What are they seeing? Just leave them alone. Let them come down and join us. Hallover Beach has a group of young men that come down and keep their clothes on. And it's like, just enjoy the people that you're with and forget about them,
Baker Beach is great. Beach is Gary Mussel's done a lot of work to try to keep that going. I gave him playfully, I gave him a hard time at the World Naked Bike Ride, because you have to walk by a sign that says no nudity allowed on the beach to get to the nude part of the beach. And so I'm always like, come on, man, can't we get that sign down? But,
I know.
He does what he can. So
Yep. They're wonderful people.
Well,
I love Rolf and Cynthia to death. I think they're
yes.
the best.
They are. And being part of that clothing optional home network, I've worked with Larry as well. Larry's great, and his wife. They ran into some situations years ago where people found out they were nudists, and she was teaching volleyball, and they didn't want their kids to be taught volleyball by her. So, people in our circle have went through the trials and tribulations of being a nudist.
Exactly.
Well, I've got a few more things. Let me just rapid fire with you, because I know we've been talking for a little bit. Shangri-La, you guys recently did an event at Shangri-La. Could you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I unfortunately I wasn't able to go. I had COVID and I can't travel yet. So Cynthia took it upon herself. Her and Ralph organized it. We helped from our end, but we went there, and it's a little bit more difficult when I'm not around, because I've been doing these for 30 years now. And but they did a wonderful job. They had workshops. They included residents of Shangri-La, which is really nice when you go to a resort. Very successful. Cynthia felt that they didn't have enough people, and I said it was enough. It was your first time.
Well, the problem was they didn't have lodging. I wanted to go, but they didn't have a place for me to stay.
Exactly. And that's why I wasn't real gung-ho about there. We have Lupin is one of my favorites, because they bend over backwards to get people beds. They work on the program with us. They promote it, and some places don't promote quite as well as others. But we've decided that we want to do more regional festivals and have other people do them, so that, because when Carmen and I are out of the office, there's one person left in the office. So it's nice when we have other people can do it. We help with the planning, we do the registration for them, and we do all the promotion for them. So they'd had a great time. The office staff worked well with them, and so did the management. So very appreciative, very successful.
That's awesome. I got the worst sunburn of my life when I went there, like about
Yeah.
10 years ago. It was just like my body didn't know what to do. I was like shivering and sweating at the same time. I was like, oh, this is awful. But I love it. I want to go back.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about grants, grant writing. Is there a division or a way to involve grant money for nudist events, nude resorts, nude lifestyle? Because a friend of mine is revitalizing a town in California, and it has a history of racial prejudice way back in the day with Native Americans and Black people. And they were recently approved for $42 million in grant money. Now, the state of California took 26 million of it, but he's working on the rest to revitalize the town, the sewer system, the agriculture, the sewer. And it got me thinking, what about us as an underrepresented group? Is there a way that, have you ever looked into that? Do you know anything about it?
We did switch to a nonprofit in 2018. So we can accept grants and accept money, but it's different when you have a poor starving child or a battered animal or all these things. So I think, yes, we could get grants. We do have people that are donating to us. So that's all wonderful. And I'm hoping that we will get more as the years go by. We are looking into some other grants. So hopefully people will get wind of that. We've been we send it out on all of our renewal notices that we are 501c3, and we do accept. And if anybody has any ideas for places we could go for grants, that would be wonderful too.
One of the more controversial lines of involvement with N Magazine is you guys, you're making something for so many people that you don't want to be controversial or overtly political in any way, but you did a pro BLM, Black Lives Matter article, and it rubbed some people the wrong way. I certainly love it myself, but I will tell you this. What I thought was so respectable about it was after you ran it, you then openly ran letters where people were not happy about it. And that gave you a lot of respect in my book, that not only did you say what you wanted to say, but then you also allowed people who disagreed to openly view their viewpoints as well.
And while we have been very careful to not get involved in anything political, that was written by somebody who was just new to naturism and had never written for us before. And she sent it in, and it was so well done, so well written. She was a sweetheart. And Mark and I hemmed and hawed, and he said, you're going to get flack for this. And I said, yeah, okay, I got big shoulders. It's okay. And it wasn't as bad as what I thought. And I didn't agree with everything she said either, but that's not my job as editor. My job is to present something and then see what happens. And you'll notice right now we're not getting any letters to the editor, so maybe I'm going to have to do something naughty like that again. I don't know.
Well, that's great. So I just wanted to say that was, I thought that was very fair. So it was like you went one way, but you didn't shy away from the other side as well. And you let everybody have a say in the conversation. And I think in this world where things are very polarized and people don't spend much time talking to each other, they stay in their bubble. And I just think it's good to have open dialogue. So I wanted to commend you. I just wanted to say I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate that because we didn't get as many letters as what I thought. I did print the worst of them, so that was okay.
Yes, that was great. Where do you see the future of nudism? If you were to predict the next 50 years, what do you think the future looks like for our industry, our lifestyle?
I don't think it's going to be much different. Lee always said that he wanted the Naturist Society to exist long enough for people to be able to walk down the street naked.
Yes.
And I don't know if we're going to get there ever, because we're a Puritan society, and I'd like to say that I'm optimistic, but I think they want to put us in our little corner and they want us to stay there. So unless we get some nice young activists that are going to push the envelope all the time, every day, in every way, I think we're going to pretty much stay where we're at right now.
Well,
I'm sorry to say that.
No, I appreciate the honesty, and that's what I want. I don't want to hear that it's rosy and beautiful if it's not. I did an interview on KFI radio in LA, and the host took me by surprise and said, because it was promoting my movie, and he's like, "Do you think your movie has had a positive influence on the culture and blah blah blah?" And without thinking, I said no. And then later, I was like, crap, I should have fed into it and been like, "Yeah, absolutely, we're changing." But no, the truth is I was preaching to the choir, and the people who bought it and watched it were already people who were on my side. I don't think that the people who aren't nudists were going to watch it. So
not everybody watches the Star Wars movies or other kind of movies either. So even if you're preaching to the choir, they can always say, well, remember we were watching that movie and we know the guy that was in it. Those are all positives. You have to look at it that way.
Sure. And with there are naked concerts in New York City. There's body painting events. There's all kinds of things that are going on all over the world, and that's why it's important for your organization to put out this magazine and to update people and let them know what's going on in the field. When you were talking about walking down the street naked, I wanted to tell you this. At the World Naked Bike Ride this year, me and we actually had somebody from HBO Sports there covering it, by the way. They've been doing a whole bunch of stuff on nude sporting events. We would get to events, along the World Naked Bike Ride route, there were spots where people could stop and take a picture and then get a bottle of water or whatever. So we would drive there before the other bike riders. And we're talking, there was something like 640 that were registered and some that weren't. So it was a big group of naked bodies. But when we would get to the event before the other people were there, we looked like 4 nudists. 3 guys and a girl naked, just walking up to Disney Plaza, for example. And when we would get there, there would naturally be security that would come over and try to, what are you doing? And you can't be here. And then we would explain to them, we're part of this, and the cops know, and everything, it's okay. And they thought we were crazy, that we were lying, that we were making it up. And so part of the biggest fun for me was being able to say, just give it 2 minutes. In 2 minutes, you're going to be surrounded by naked people. And they thought I was delusional. And then right on clockwork, here comes hundreds of naked people on bicycles coming down the hill. And these security guys don't know what to do. And one of them, I went over at the end and I said, did you learn something today?
I always feel when we're at an event and we're there for the weekend or a week long, and then we go to the airport to fly home, and it takes me like 20 minutes to go, oh, they all have their clothes on, because you don't think about it. We're all naked together. And, you go to dinner and everybody's naked. You go to the pool and everybody's naked.
Right.
You go to a workshop and everybody's naked. So it's a learning curve for people, I think.
I think about that sometimes when I leave my condo. For a second, I think, oh, did I remember to put clothes on?
Yeah, I know. We are like that too. It's like, oh, shit. You pack your suitcase, and then it's like, oh, I have to put clothes on too, so gotta open that suitcase back up. Yeah, especially after a week.
Sure. Well, I wanna allow an opportunity for you to plug anything that's going on with the Naturist Society right now. I gotta tell you, I love your calendars, by the way. I bought the last one and I have the current one. It's right next to my desk. Your calendars are just a lot of fun. But what is there anything you'd like to plug or say that is going on for the rest of the year or plans for next year? Because you've got the podcast, you've got Clothes Free, and wherever else this ends up. So.
Well, we will have a Western gathering again next year, so Cynthia's gonna work on it. I'm not sure where we're gonna go yet. I'd like to do one, like I said, in Oklahoma, so we're thinking about that. I just think that everybody should go to our website. We've got frequently asked questions on there, and I have been known to sell clothes to nudists.
What?
Yeah, I do. I'm sorry, but we have to advertise the Naturist Society, so we have T-shirts that we sell. And I am a really good salesperson. So do go online and buy something. It's www.naturistsociety.com. Call our office. All of us will be more than happy to answer your questions and talk to you. And I think everybody ought to try it just once. And if you don't like it, you're crazy, but that's okay. We're all crazy.
We are all crazy. That is for
betcha.
sure. Okay. Thank you for joining me, Nicky Hoffman, the Naturist Society. So for the Naturist Living Show podcast and clothesfree.com, I am Tim Chizmar, and stay naked.
Thanks, Tim.
Well, that's all for this episode of the Naturist Living Show. Thank you, as always, for listening. My name is Stéphane Deschênes, and I'm your host for this podcast and the owner of Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. I make this show with a lot of help from Samantha Graham, who you heard from at the beginning of the show, and you can support her and us on Patreon at patreon.com/Naturist Living Show, one word. None of the money is for me. None of the money is for me. It's all for Samantha and to help produce the show. You can find links to all of the items that I mentioned in the show notes on the website at naturistliving.show.com. The Naturist Living Show theme music is called The Day We Met by Mark Hodges. Please keep sending your comments and your suggestion. We always appreciate reading them and getting them. We can't always reply, but we do read them all. The show's email address is contact@naturistliving.show.com. I hope you enjoy the show and that you'll join us again for the next episode of the Naturist Living Show.
This episode of the Naturist Living Show was brought to you by Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park. Traditional naturist values in a modern setting. Traditional values means that naturism is more than just taking your clothes off. It is a life philosophy with physical, psychological, environmental, social, and moral benefits. Bear Oaks Family Naturist Park strives to promote those naturist values in a modern setting that provides the amenities and services that our members and visitors expect. Free your body, free your mind. Learn more at www.bearoaks.ca.
Dyer, you saw the countdown, and now it says live.
I started it. Yeah, it's just
Okay.
going to a private stream. I just wanted to make sure, in case she gets on, when she gets on, that we don't miss a thing.
Is the light too bright on me? Because I can lower the lighting. Because at this point,
You have it on like white or
I have it on white, not the lighter.
Yeah. Go with the
What's
softer
that
one
lighter?
and see what. Yeah, go with the softer one and see what happens. I didn't know you were going to have to do burpees to change the lighting. Sorry.
How's this? Better or worse?
That is better. Yeah, more of a natural glow.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm in love now. Much better. You see yourself. You see what you look like. Stop.
I think I'm on. I don't know.
Hey, is she in the waiting room, Chris?
I don't see her.
I clicked on join stream.
She says she clicked on join stream.
Ah, there you go. There she is. Look at that.
Oh, look at that. We're all here.
She has
Right.
an echo.
I'm going to hang up the phone so we can talk through this.
That's why.
There we go. How's that?
Well, there we go. I'll just adjust the, get you in there.
There we go.
Have fun, guys.
Thank you.
So we want to adjust the camera so that it's more on you.
That's really weird because my picture shows that I am. Is that better?
That is better.
All right.
Yeah. And for eye contact, it looks like you're looking off to the side. Is there the option to look straight ahead?
Well, yeah, but I don't know where oh, I know what it is. I've got my iPad upside down. There, that's gonna work better. There we go. How's that? I just got a new iPad and it's got I have a carrier on it, and maybe I should go like this. How's that? I'll get it. I'll get it. Really, I will. Okay, how's that?
I think we're nearly there. We just want to adjust the headroom, give you a little bit more space up top.
Okay, I think I have to put something under this then.
There you go. That kind of thing is much better. Yep. All right.
See, so used to my computer at work, it's all fancy and fixed up and everything.
Sure. Okay, so we are recording now. Let me check in with my tech guy. Chris, are we good? Everything on your side?
Yeah, it seems like it. Let me see if the private stream is going out in case you shared it with anybody. That's just kind of my backup. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, you're good to go. I get out of your way and then it'll be perfect, I think.
Okay.
All right, man.